Hare Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Sodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Sodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaur Hari Bol. Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace Abhaya Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwaraka Dham Ki Purushottama Kshetra Jagannath Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Navdeep Dham Ki Gangama Yamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuvanmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. We are reading from the chapter Story of King Vena, 4th canto, 14th chapter, text number 10. Aheriva paya poshaha poshakasyapyanartabrit Vena prakrityaiva kalaha Sunitha garbhasambhavaha Aheriva paya poshaha पोषकस्याप्यनर्थभृत् वेनः प्रकृत्यैव कलह सुनीता गर्भसम्भवः अहेरिव पयपोषः पोषकस्याप्यनर्थभृत् वेनः प्रकृत्यैव कलह सुनीता गर्भसम्भवः अहेरिव पयपोषः पोषकस्याप्यनर्थभृत् वेनः प्रकृत्यैव कलह सुनीता गर्भसम्भवः अहेरिव पयपोषः पोषकस्याप्यनर्थभृत् वेनः प्रकृत्यैव कलह सुनीता गर्भ Mataji Ahehe of a snake Eva like Payaha with milk Poshaha the maintaining Poshakasya of the maintainer Api even Anartha against the interest Brit becomes Venaha King Vena Prakritya by nature Eva certainly Kalaha mischievous Sunitha of Sunitha Vena's mother Garbha the womb Sambhavaha born of. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The sages began to think within themselves, because he was born from the womb of Sunitha, King Vena is by nature very, very mischievous. Supporting this mischievous king is exactly like maintaining a snake with milk. Now he has become a source of all difficulties. Purport. Saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities and the materialistic way of life. King Vena was supposed by the saintly persons just to protect the citizens from the hands of rogues and thieves. But after his ascendance to the throne, he became a source of trouble to the sages. Saintly people are especially interested in performing sacrifices and austerities for the advancement of spiritual life. But Vena, instead of being obliged because of the saints' mercy, turned out to be their enemy because he prohibited them from executing their ordinary duties. A serpent who is maintained with milk and bananas simply stores poison in his teeth and awaits the day to bite his master. I seek the blessings of His Grace, Anandamaya Prabhu and other devotees to speak on this very difficult character of Vena. Srimad Bhagavatam has abundant glorification of the saintly kings like Yudhishthira Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Arjuna, Maharaj Gaya, Maharaj Bharata, and many more such kings. And Bhagavatam also gives information about the evil mongers like Kamsa or Banasura or Bhaumasura or Duvida, and also kings like Vena, whom we are studying about. Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki. So, what is the advantage in knowing about such khala or mischievous and nefarious kings? Bhagavatam does not present these things without a purpose. It has a purpose. Because within our system, we have both an angel and an animal. And oftentimes, the animal-like propensities may surface and lead to mischievous behavior. Even after we become devotees, some of the lower natures may pop up. So studying about this kind of characters in the Bhagavatam will inspire the devotees to curb the mischievous tendencies and unwanted anarthas in our heart. One very open lesson anybody can immediately draw from Vena's character is, if the Brahmanas have jointly chosen him for the kingship, you should be loyal to them, faithful to them, and you should walk the religious path, at least after being chosen, if not before. Any ideal human being means you should regret for the mistakes committed. And you should try to walk the right path now and not to commit the same old mistakes again. And he has to make a program for reformation and purification of heart. But Vena was not in such a mood at all. In fact, Vena was self-righteous, we call it. Self-righteous means thinking very high of oneself, boastful by nature, condescending by nature. Condescending means condemning even the Brahmana teachers. And he was very boastful, claiming himself to be God. And he wanted all his praja to worship him. I had quoted one of the shlokas in the previous class, Na yashtavyam, na datavyam, na hotavyam, kadachana. He says, nobody in my kingdom should perform any Vedic sacrifices or chant the Vedic mantras, and one should not give any charity to Brahmins, and no devata should be worshipped. Then everybody asked, then whom should be worshipped? He said, myself. He said, I am the king. He said, the king is the embodiment of all the devatas, and he represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he should be worshipped, he said. Actually, in one sense, what he said is not totally wrong. The king is a Naradeva, representative of the Supreme Lord. But he is not the Supreme Lord. Like nowadays you find there are many human beings who claim to be guru of their people, and eventually they claim that they are only God. And people chant, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri, Guruve Namaha. So people treat them like Guru, treat them like God. Shastras definitely say that Guru should be treated like God, but Guru is not God. In the same manner, King should be treated like God, but King is not God. And also, why is he treated like that? Because the King or the Guru, they should, on behalf of the Supreme Lord, they should hand over the love that Lord feels for every jiva. Prajanam Pitruvatsalaha. It is said about Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj treated his citizens exactly like a father would treat his own wards, his own children. So that is one purpose the king is kept. And how does he exhibit his love? By welfare, beginning with basic food, clothing, shelter. But that's not all. Subsequently, he has to arrange for the education, in spirituality, arranging nice temples where yesterday we were in Yadadri. Just now the temple has opened yesterday only. Such a beautiful temple. There are 5 Narasimhas there. So you have to climb up. So a lot of about 1,000 crores is invested, I heard, in order to make that beautiful hilltop temple. Now already thousands of people have started coming. It's going to become very popular, famous like Tirupati, I heard. So now, what is the purpose of such temples? Uh, so that people are fascinated to go to cinemas, clubs, brothels, liquor shops, and gambling casinos, and people are inspired to go to slaughterhouses and eat meat and everything. So to divert the people from such sinful activities, there should be virtuous places which are very fascinating, which are very attractive. So people come in large numbers there. So the king's duty is to actually make a facility for the people to be elevated, and he can't do on his own. He needs to be guided by the saintly brahmanas. So when such guidance is followed, then the whole world will benefit. But here we find this king was uninterested in religious activities. He was uninterested in spiritual activities. He wanted to be worshipped himself, selfishly. Like we find in newspaper sometimes some so-called saintly person. Just like Ravana put up a show of a saint when he came to, beg some alms from Mother Sita. His idea was to loot Sita, correct now? So there can be such Dharma Dvaji, we call it. Dharma Dvaji means, Dvaja means flag. Dharma Dvaji means one who appears saintly but is actually hypocritical. Inside, there are so-called saints like that who become exposed eventually in newspaper and everything. In the same manner, this king was hypocritical. He was using a Shastric statement and misapplying it. He said, Shastra say, I am Naradev. That means I am only God. All of you worship me and stop all of the worship of Supreme Lord Vishnu and demigods and everything. So, one good thing that was happening with Vena was the rogues and thieves were under control. And sages were happy about that because he was so atrocious. If you would catch a thief, you would cut his head. So they were very afraid. They thought, hey, you lose your life. Better hide yourself. So thieves and rogues were hiding themselves. So they knew Vena is a very cruel fellow. So they were very cautious. But then, more important than keeping thieves and rogues under control is the spiritual progress of the praja. See, there are two things, material progress and spiritual progress. There are people who may not be materially affluent. Sudama Brahmana and his wife are living in poverty, but their spirituality was going on. On the other hand, somebody becomes materially affluent and spiritually barren, like Nalakur Manigriv. They were materially affluent, they were sons of Kuvera, but spiritually they were bankrupt. So, out of the two, which is more important, if you see, we have to be spiritually affluent. And materially, even if you are lacking a little bit, Prabhupada writes in one of the purports, material welfare follows spiritual welfare, like a shadow following the body. You will see that. How is it that material welfare will follow spiritual welfare? You will see that as soon as you become spiritually serious, all bad habits will go away. So you will have a lot of money savings. Like I saw one rickshawala was telling me, he earns 4,000 per month and he spends 8,000. How can he spend? Because he's taking loan from his friends and asking his wife to bring more dowry. I asked, what are you spending in? He's spending in drinking, smoking, tobacco and all these things. So, of course, I invited him to temple. He came, he chanted. Within a couple of months, his expenditure came down to 2,000, 2,500 in those days. So, where is 8,000? Where is 2,500? That is because as soon as you become virtuous, spiritual minded, all bad habits go away. Along with that, a lot of unwanted expenditure is also finished. Not only that, a devotee of the Lord saves wealth and utilizes it in a rationed way so that he can get more time for Krishna also. So actually, not only the king and the praja, everybody should be aligned. We call it as a conformity and unity. We call it these two principles. Conformity with God's laws and unity with fellow living beings. Anybody who does it, their lives will be peaceful and happy. even in this world also. But you find what is conformity with God's laws? Accept, Vishnu is supreme and I am subordinate. That's the first aspect of conformity. And accept that whatever Lord says in the scriptures, I will faithfully follow it. That is conformity. Like we have Indian law or constitution, correct, no? And if those who don't follow, they will be behind the bars. Same with those who don't follow the God's laws are punishable. And you find Vena was not even interested to learn what is to be followed and what is not to be followed. So, and unity with living entities means don't trouble other living beings. And don't be troubled by them. Like there is one verse in Bhagavad Gita, Yasman no udvijate loko, lokan no udvijate chayah, harsha marsha bayodvegair, mukto yas sachame priyah. This verse says that a devotee of the Lord does not disturb the other living beings, and if others disturb, he doesn't get disturbed. He says. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't disturb his father, but when his father disturbed, he tolerated. Imagine if everybody is like Prahlad in this world, where will there be any trouble in this world? So here Vena was a great trouble giver for the saintly people because they were worried that he is stopping all the spiritual activities. The whole world will become bankrupt. I will show you another verse from another section. You will see that. See here in the first canto, the sages are assembling here. They are saying, Tatra tatran jasa yushman bhavata yat vinishchitam pumsam ekan tata shreyas tanna shamsitum arhasi. They are saying, O Sutta Goswami, please therefore being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. See, he's saying, Ekantata Shreyaha, the ultimate absolute good. Tanna Shamsitum Arghasi. Explain to us. So here Prabhupada what he says here. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharyas is recommended. The Acharyas and Goswamis are always absorbed in thought of the well-being of the general public. Especially their spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. See, this is what I said. The Acharyas therefore give directions in spiritual well-being for people in general, foreseeing the incompetencies of the people in age of Kali or the iron age of quarrel. The sages requested that Sutta Goswami give a summary of all revealed scriptures, because people in this age are condemned in every aspect, in every respect. And the sages therefore inquired of the absolute good for the ultimate good of the people. Here you are seeing the word Rishi means one who is always contemplating on the welfare of the masses. Because they are such contemplative, they also foresee the future. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. These are all degrading, gradually degrading ages. As people come to Kali now, people will be having many bad qualities. So how will they be? Here is a list given. Prayenalpayusha sabya kalavasmin yuge janaha mandasu mandamadayo mandabhagyahi upadrutaha. So in this verse, each word Prabhupada illustrates very nicely. Alpayusha means people have short lives. Why? Because of irregular habits, he says. No eating on time, no sleeping on time, or overeating, over sense gratification, or over dependence on people for company jobs. Sometimes people are purposing going from one place to another, begging for job opportunities. In villages, people stood on their own legs very easily. But after coming to city, life has become over dependent. Also, artificial standards of enjoyment, Prabhupada says. People want to have big bungalows, big cars, and big fat salary. And then they want to increase. Therefore, big shopping malls are selling so many things. We are not against the necessities of life, but people are not just satisfied with that. They are going for luxuries. If you want big luxuries, then you need a fat salary. If you want fat salary, then life becomes miserable. So, in the age of Kali, people will have irregular habits. So, Prabhupada writes a long list in this purport. You will see what are the irregular habits. You will see Here he gives a list. So here, cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickering, so many things. So they were seeing these things. Therefore, their sages are saying now, Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyani vibhagashah atasadotrayat saram samudritya manishaya bruhi bhadraya bhutanam yenatma suprasidati. Hey sadho, atra yat saram, all the essence of all the Vedic literatures, samudritya manishaya, give us a summary by your intelligence. They are saying, use your intelligence and summarize everything and give us. Don't give a very exhaustive, all the four Vedas. There is no one has time to study now. Isn't it? Bruhi, Bhadraya Bhutanam, for the welfare of the Bhutanam. Bhadraya Bhutanam, for the supreme welfare of all living entities. By which Yenatma Suprasidati. All jivas can become happy by that. All round happiness we call it. Body, mind, soul. So here you can see, Bhurini Bhuri Karmani means the Shastras are too exhaustive. There are 1 lakh verses in the Vedas. Now who is going to read all these things? So therefore they are saying that such vast amount of literature nobody can understand, read and come to the conclusion. They'll get lost. So you do that work. You are already very learned. Tell us the essence, they're saying. Yeah. So now they are going to the questions now. There is another section. See here, this is about Vedavyas. This is another chapter. See, Vedavyas is born now. Sa kadachit saraswatya upasprishya jalam shuchihi vivikta yeka asina udite ravi mandale. At one time, Vyasdev, performing achaman with water from Saraswati river, being purified, sat alone in an isolated spot while the sun rose. He's saying. And here comes, you see. Paravaragya sarishihi kalena vyaktaram hasa yugadharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi yuge yuge. See, the great sage Vyasdeva saw the anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. So here you see, Vyasdeva could see the past and the future because he had pure vision. It's called as, there are two words. Amoghadrik is one word, spotless vision. Shuchishrava means one who has heard purely, pure message. Observed by his spiritual eye that the dharmas for the yugas had been destroyed on the earth, yuga after yuga. And then he's giving the same list, you see. The people were divided off, and that is mentioned here, if you see. Here is the word used here, see. Paravaragya. He knows the past and the future. Yeah. Yoga Dharma Vyatikaram means degradation in the age due to Kala. And then decrease in the strength of bodily conditions. Bhautikanam cha bhavanam, he's saying. And then he's saying, the people were filled with Rajas and Tamas, Nissatvan. Word is used. Nissatvan. People were not in Satvaguna, they were in Rajaguna. See here Prabhupada says, the people in general in the age of Kali are too much interested in matter, which is temporary. And because of their ignorance, they are unable to evaluate assets of life. That means they have no ability to evaluate assets on their own. And that is the reason they have to follow the saintly people. Yeah. So See, that's the first line he says in the purport. Saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities and the materialistic way of life. Correct, no? But they are interested in the welfare of the masses. Which means, even as devotees, first we are certainly concerned about our own spiritual life, our practice of spiritual life. But there has to be a very natural inclination in the heart of the devotees to worry about the masses, how the world is going, how the people can be brought to the right path. So you will see when Srila Prabhupada was in India, he would go and meet leaders of the country like Lal Bahadur Shastri. Prabhupada gave him copies of Bhagavatam personally. Yeah. Prabhupada even wrote to Indira Gandhi also. Prabhupada gave some 10, 12 principles to Indira Gandhi about MLAs and MPs. They should be second initiated Vaishnavas. Prabhupada wrote to her. Now some people are laughing at hearing this. How can MLAs, MPs be second initiated Vaishnavas? But it is not impossible. A day may come in our country, because acharyas like Prabhupada aspired that even such people in political positions can be, godly and saintly. It's quite possible. And Prabhupada never thought that these are, to be laughed at. It's not impossible. Such things can happen. So there can be Rajarshi like leaders even today. It's possible. That is the kind of ambition Prabhupada had even when he was in India, even before going to America. And therefore he could put up ISKCON in such a big manner, if you see. The Prabhupada would often say, aim at the rhino. He was not aiming anything very small. So, whom did Prabhupada meet? If you see, politicians he met, very big politicians. Very rich people in India he met and told them that, Prabhupada would very frankly and honestly preach to them. In Mumbai also. Like he met one glass industry owner. Prabhupada said, don't you think you are a thief? The man asked, what do you say? Prabhupada said, how do you make your glass? He said, from silicon. Where does silicon come from? From the sand. He said, you are taking from God and you are making. So the man said, oh Swamiji, I also give a little donation. He said, okay, you are a little thief. Actually, you should give abundant to God. You are taking so much from Him. So, that kind of preaching he did from rich people. He inspired them to open their treasury for propagating Krishna consciousness. There is one example in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that like in the clouds, sometimes there is a thunderbolt, and there is a lightning also, and there is a rain shower. Similarly, the great personalities like Srila Prabhupada, their preaching is like thunderbolt, but it is also accompanied by lightning, which is like enlightenment. And the release of the rain shower is like big rich people releasing the donation for service of Krishna and the society, people in society, by building temples, by propagating Sankirtanam, by distributing prasadam, by distributing Bhagavad Gitas like that. So, Prabhupada was not just satisfied sitting in Vrindavan chanting Hare Krishna alone. He was going and meeting many, many big shots. That's how he met Sumati Morarji also and got an opportunity to go to America. Correct, no? So here he is saying saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities. One time Prabhupada was sitting in the hotel Sheraton, 14th floor. One staff reporter asked him, Swamiji, how is it you are sitting in such a costly hotel? Prabhupada said, if I am sitting under a tree, will you come? The man thought for a minute and said, I definitely won't be interested. So Prabhupada knew how to make the lazy and dull people in society who are politically influential people or monetarily affluent people, how to bring them to Krishna's lotus feet. He had that knack, he had that art. So here also that's the main point. It is that they are generally aloof, but in another purpose says they are not totally aloof. They are interested. Who is aloof from society? Two people he says, karmis and jnanis. Karmis are interested in material expansion program. They want to become, the nature of materialists is to expand their material life and selfishly enjoy themselves. And the nature of jnanis is to go to Himalayas and keep themselves aloof for their own moksha. But Bhaktas Prabhupada says they live in the midst of the people in society and they make some plan for their deliverance. Like Ramanuja went to the top of the temple roof and invited all people to accept the holy name, isn't it? Haridas Thakur used to preach in the public, moving from one place to another. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to South India. You can see that. Prahlad Maharaj says, I don't want to be delivered alone. Innumerable examples can be given. Vasudeva Datta prayed that I am ready to take all the sins of all the living beings, isn't it? So that's therefore here in this purpose says that generally aloof from social activities and materialistic way of life. Why he says that? They are not interested in enjoying social activities. That's the main point. In socializing, they don't get enjoyment, but in giving Krishna, they enjoy. So in English, we call it as they don't isolate themselves, they insulate themselves. See, isolating means going to Himalayas. Insulating means live in the middle of society, insulate yourself with the bulletproof Maya covering, where you won't get affected by society, but you will influence them spiritually. Like in the war also, if you see, they have a sword and a shield. So when enemy is attacking you, show the shield. When enemy is not attacking, you use the sword, correct? Even in using of gun also, they hide themselves like that they do. You've seen that? They come out and they shoot, but they won't get shot. Similarly, devotees also what they have to do, we have to live in the middle of society, but insulate ourselves, not isolate ourselves. By insulating ourselves, we will not be affected by the society. But here they saw that Vena's behavior is going to affect even the Brahmanas, because if the Brahmanas cannot do saintly activities like yajna, and preaching of the sacred scriptures, worshipping the Lord in the temple, if those activities are stopped, then even the Brahmanas will also become degraded, which is happening nowadays in society. Many of the Brahmanas, they have sacred thread, but because they gave up the saintly activities or religious activities, gradually they became degraded. Sakale neha mahata yogo nishta parantapa. So gradually the world is in degrading mode in Kali Yuga age. So therefore they saw that the person who is supposed to benefit the praja, he is destroying the praja. So that's the next point. The second point he says is, he saved the praja from thieves and rogues, but he destroyed them in a much bigger way. Actually, this requires deep eyes to see. It's like materially you are giving somebody, it's like, you are giving a banana to eat to a child. While the child is eating banana, you steal a 2 lakh rupees necklace from his neck. You give a 2 rupee banana and take away 2 lakh. And this is exactly what modern day scientific education, science and technology and medical advancement is doing today. Many people are innocently taking all these electronic gadgets and facilities and amenities and mundane education. And then gradually the children are fed with the poison to think that your ancestors were apes and everything came from a big bang. And many parents are very proud and happy that my children are abroad. They are studying in America, in London, in Australia. They are very feeling very joyful and privileged that our children are very advanced materially. But they do not know that this kind of atheistic leadership of the society has made our children become bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt. You will see that. Materially affluent, spiritually bankrupt. And that is the Vena culture is also the modern day culture also. So, some or other, the materially afflicted living entities, they are blind to see what is real progress, what is illusory progress. The illusory progress, Prabhupada, when he went to America, he told, the dog is running on 4 legs and you are running on 4 wheels. How are you making progress? Prabhupada asked. Your progress is what progress? Illusory progress. Why it is called illusory progress? Because, you go from practically nothing when you are a small child, 5th standard, 10th standard, 12th standard, engineering, you go abroad, get a doctorate, and then start your own .com company and have millions of dollars. And suddenly one day you die, everything comes to zero. That's called illusory progress. Material progress is zero progress. It's a string of zeros. But that's what the whole world is after. Even those who have come to the religious circles, even they secretly cherish material success of their children and grandchildren. Even though somebody might have come to the path of religion, because it takes a very deep vision to see the spiritual progress as real progress. Spiritual progress actually means how much affection and attraction we have awakened for the Supreme Lord. Na utpadiyet adiratyam samayevahi kevalam. See, we don't say you don't need basic food, clothing, shelter, but that's not what the world is satisfied with. The world is craving for material successes. So here the Vena culture is atheistic culture, materialistic advancement culture, and this is what many of the modern day people are after. So we may be thinking that, Vena lived long ago and poor Vena, he was spoiling the society. Now what man is spoiling is even much more than Vena's time also. At least in Vena's time, the Brahmanas were very influential. They could actually, with one dissatisfied hunkar, they could destroy Vena. But today, the modern day civilization is headlong going in materialistic direction. And in the name of religion, Prabhupada says in another purport, many people are promoting sense gratification in the name of religion. And most of the people who want religion also align with such organizations to externally claim to be religious, but internally maintain atheistic views. You can see that. Like you can see, many religious organizations try to align with the modern day materialistic civilization so that they can survive. Because their survival depends on how much you wag your tail to the materialistic civilization. But in such a age, degraded age, Prabhupada very boldly presented the truth. Just like these Brahmanas are now going to go to Vena and say, Vena, they actually concealed their anger and they externally smiled. And they spoke to Vena, my dear king, if a king promotes dharmic activities, he will ascend to heaven along with his praja. But if he is going to stop religious activities, he along with the citizens will glide down to hell. So we are here to instruct you with the right knowledge. We request you to follow the right path. Follow the progressive path, not a degrading path. But Vena was in no mood to hear. So absolutely, he rejected them. Then they decided that even if Vena dies, there is no problem. We can Actually, saintly people could have become the kings themselves, but they wanted to follow the swadharma of a Brahmana. They did not become kings. They would come up with another alternative solution to Vena. But the point is, you can see that saintly people, they are interested in performing sacrifices and austerities for the advancement of spiritual life. But Vena, instead of being obliged, here another example is given of a serpent. Payampanam bhujanganam kevalam vishavardhanam. It is said, if one shows mercy to a snake and you feed the snake with milk and bananas, it will become very plumpy, stout, and it will bite the supplier of bananas and milk. So the Brahmanas gave him the position to a unqualified fellow. Like, have you heard the saying, if you take a dog who is catching the boots or biting a bone, you take that dog and bathe him nicely, put coat, suit, boot, tie, cap, everything, and put him on the king's seat. Is the dog going to remain there? Again he will jump off from the king's seat and again catch the bone. Again he will bite a shoe. His swabhava doesn't change. That was in the nature of Vena also. It's not that swabhava can never change. Swabhava can be changed by spiritual advancement, especially by chanting of the holy name. But Vena was in no mood. Vena was in no mood to listen to the Brahmanas. That's the saying Chanakya says. One day Chanakya was walking and there was a thorn on the way. So his disciples were also watching. As soon as the thorn pricked his feet, he lifted the feet and removed the thorn. And he saw that there is a thorny bush kind of thing. So he went to the neighborhood shop and he purchased some buttermilk. He brought it there and started putting it over the thorny bush. And the disciples are waiting and watching what Guruji is doing. and he was twisting it, trying to uproot it. So the disciples asked him, why are you wasting your time? If there is a thorny bush, you can go by the side, this side or that side. He said, yes, I can do that. He said, you may do that, but I won't do that, he said, because I am concerned about the future, he said. This thorny bush is going to keep pricking. Anybody comes in this way. So, at the time he says this. Khalanam kantakanam cha dvidaiva pratikriya upanan mukha bhangova durastova visarjanam. He says, if you see a thorn on your way, you should crush it or you should throw it far away. If you are not strong enough to deal with it, you throw it far away. Keep distance. Or if you are strong enough, you crush it and you remove it so that it will not harm anyone else, he said. So what he said was, at that time there was one unrighteous king in Chanakya's time who was mistreating Brahmanas in general and Chanakya in specific. So Chanakya removed his shikha and told him that I will only tie the shikha until I dethrone you. He had taken a vow. And therefore he came and identified one Chandragupta, young soldier, and then he made him the king of the golden age of the Guptas, isn't it? And then he defeated that king, and then he placed Chandragupta Maurya on the throne. And then what followed was the golden age of the Guptas, we say in India. There was very high culture and everything. So the idea is the Brahmanas were very, very powerful to enthrone or dethrone kings in those times. So Vena was taking the Brahmanas very cheaply, and that is his ill fortune. He thought, who are these Brahmanas? Poor beggars. They wear very simple clothes. They are just sitting with the books. And they have no money. They are beggars. They have no influence. Actually, the Brahmanas' power is, they are called as a storehouse of austerities. And they are also a storehouse of transcendental wisdom. And they carry Lord in their hearts. You say, what is that verse? Bhavat vida bhagavatas tirtha bhuta swayam vibho tirti kurvanti tirthani sa antastena kadabrata. So, their power is as great as Lord's power. Because as the Lord can act within every atom also, and he can create millions of universes. Similarly, Brahmanas are called as a Bhudeva. Bhudeva means the earthly gods. And that is the reason why Draupadi told our Arjuna that you should not anger the Mahats. If the Mahatma devotees of the Lord become angry, or Brahmanas become angry with Rajyakulam, the whole Rajyakulam will be destroyed, vanquished, like the trees in the forest sometimes are completely burned down. Because they may not have the mundane wealth, but they have the wealth of austerities and wealth of wisdom and wealth of tapovalam and wealth of Lord whom they are carrying in their hearts. Like that, she said. Of course, she is a knower of religious principles she is speaking. Whereas here, Vena, he had absolutely no respect for the saintly order. He was actually enraging the Brahmanas. Those who have enraged great souls have always been led to ruin. You will find Indra offended Brihaspati by not getting up from his Simhasana and offering obeisances because he had become familiar. Adiparichayat avajnat. And then Brihaspati vanished from that place. Indra, in a moment, Indra realized that I committed a mistake. He got up and he told all the assembled people, I have become very proud of my position. I offended my great spiritual master. I will immediately go and beg forgiveness by going to his house. So he went to his house, but his Guruji was not to be found in the house. Guruji had made up his mind that if he comes to me and offers obeisances, he will become forgiven. But I don't want him to be forgiven. I want him to learn a good lesson by making him run from pillar to post. So Guruji vanished in such a manner that he was unlocatable anywhere, the whole universe. And Indra lost all his opulences along with his people also. Completely lost everything. So therefore the Shastras say that one has to be very alert and attentive, not only the way we act, or not only the way we speak, even the way we think also, while dealing with great souls. There's one verse which says, Ayo Shriyam Yashodharmam Lokana Shishaye Vacha Hanti Shreyamsi Sarvani Pumso Mahadatikramaha Mahat Atikrama means when one acts in an atrocious way with Mahatmas, then they lose their life duration. Shriyam, they lose all their opulences. Yasha means the fame. Dharmam means the religious credits they have accumulated. And Lokan Ashisha, the Ashirvad they have accumulated from various great souls. Hanti, it says, all of them are destroyed, it says. Hanti Shreyamsi Sarvani. Pumso, very frightening verse it is. Pumso Mahadati Krama, he says. So, actually, these are all there in the scriptures. But when one becomes blinded by pride, like Vena, then one loses one's all good virtuous qualities. So, therefore, you can see Vena taking the Brahmanas very cheaply and eventually getting into trouble. A couple of examples comes to my mind how one can be alert while dealing with great souls. One is our Rahugana, who got off from his palanquin and fell on the ground and offering obeisances to Jadabharata. As soon as he recognized Jadabharata's position as a Paramahamsa, immediately he sought forgiveness. Shanke Vrisham Brahma Kulava Manat. He said, I am extremely afraid of offending great souls. And also he told, Aham Shanke Suraraja Vajran. He says, I am not afraid of Indra's thunderbolt. I am not afraid of Shiva's Trishul. I am not afraid of the Varuna Pash of Varuna. I am not afraid of Yama's Danda also. I am not afraid. Actually, one should be afraid of all this. Yama's Danda, Varuna's Pash, the robes, or Shiva's Trishul, which gives Trivida Tap. So, he said, I am not afraid because physically I am ready to suffer. But spiritually, I don't want to offend great Vaishnavas and become bereft of spiritual credits. That shows his spiritual advancement. And similarly, another example comes to my mind, which is Shukracharya's disciple, Vrishaparva. His daughter was Sarmishta. So when Sarmishta had offended Devyani, Shukracharya's daughter, by throwing her in a dry well, when she came and told her father, King Vrishaparva got up and started running out of the palace, and he ran in the road. And on the other side, he saw Shukracharya with his daughter coming. And Shukracharya's whole body was trembling in anger, seething with anger. Lips were quivering. He was about to spell out a curse on Sarmishta's father, King Vrishaparva. And Vrishaparva knew that, this great sage can curse my entire dynasty to be vanquished. He can even burn me alive by simply one curse. So he ran to Shukracharya and fell flat on the ground, clasping his feet. And he was not getting up. Shukracharya said, get up, king, I want to talk to you. King said, I cannot get up unless you say I am forgiven by you. And Shukracharya felt pity for the king. He told, you are forgiven, get up. When he got up, then Shukracharya, lips quivering, he spoke. How can a father tolerate the insult done to the daughter? Therefore, I was coming to you, he said. And king said, whatever you say will be done, don't worry. So then he told, your daughter Sarmishta insulted my daughter, Devyani. So whatever Devyani demands, you have to fulfill. So then Devyani said that Sarmishta and all her associates should become her maid servants. And king agreed for that, although it's a very serious decision. Because king knew that on one side he put the entire praja, on the other side he saw his ego of his daughter being a princess along with the servant. He told the daughter, it is better for you to follow the order of Shukracharya. Later on their minds may change. But now you have to go and follow that. Here is an example of how one should not enrage great souls, or one should be humble and be willing to forego one's ego, false ego, and surrender. But Vena was not of that class, like Rahugana or Vrishaparva and such great kings. Vena was a very degraded person, terribly sinful person. They gave him a chance, but he misused the chance. He misused the opportunity given to him. Actually, opportunities are available for us in this world to take any one of the two roads, the virtuous road or the vicious road. Always this is opportunities available. If you see Duryodhana, in Dhritarashtra's court, many great saintly people came, Markandeya Rishi would come, Narada would come, Dhaumya Rishi would come, many, Vedavyas would come. They all gave such amazing, Durvasa came. Actually, Dhritarashtra's court was always decorated with saintly people coming and speaking the virtuous things. But Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they heard with 1 year and left with another year. They were no more to follow. You will see that. They were like hell-bent on continuing their vicious program. You can see that. On the other hand, those who are blessed souls, they will take the right indication, like Vidura, for example. He was although he was a Dasiputra, he was such a virtuous soul. You can see that. So, can a vicious person like Vena be given chance to be a king? You shouldn't be given a chance. But Brahmana said no other alternative. So they thought of taking actually they gave him chance. Why? Because they had the ability to dethrone him. Therefore, see, one who can have the ability to dethrone can also enthrone. Like for example, our Romaharshana Sutta was killed on the spot by Balaramji with one clump of grass. And immediately there was hahakar. All the Brahmanas said, oh, Balramji, we were planning to have a Bhagavatam Satra for 1,000 years from now. We are unfortunate that the speaker has been, speaker is killed now. There's no one to speak. You know what Balramji told them? Don't worry, I will again revive him. Instantly. He had that ability. But then the Brahmanas told, no, let it be. Whatever you did, you are all-knowing. You are the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, whatever you did for him is for his good. But now you empower his son, Suta Goswami, they said. Then Balramji empowered the son. But the point is, Balramji had the ability to take away life and also give life. Prabhupada says modern day scientists can throw a bomb and they can only destroy life, but they can't give life. They can kill thousands of people. Like right now they are throwing bombs in Ukraine. They can only kill people, they can't give life to people. Whereas Balramji can bring back life. Similarly, these Brahmanas, they had the ability to enthrone the king, Vena, with full confidence that in case he doesn't align with the Guru Sadhu and Shastra, they can dethrone him. They had that ability. Then they enthroned him. They were not like our Vishwamitra, who created a Trishanku Swarga, which went out of control. And that was going round and round. It was about to hit other planets. And Vishwamitra started screaming. And that is the first time he called out the name of Hari very loudly. Oh Lord, Hari! I just shouted. Lord Vishnu appeared. And Vishnu said, why did you create something which you yourself cannot control? He asked them. Modern day scientists are also creating many gadgets and everything which are creating a havoc for the children now. And many parents are worried about the children getting dragged by certain video games, PUBG or Blue Whale and such kinds of video games. So, and the parents are not able to control children. Children are not able to control their own minds. And scientists are not able to control anybody. Everything is going out of control. It is exactly Vishwamitra style. It is. Create things which are going out of your control. So, one Haji Wells wrote long before a book called as Thinking Machine. It was a sci-fi book. In that book he wrote, in future man will create many machines to make the machines his slaves. But the result will be man will become slave of machines. He wrote long before, and that's becoming true now. So, Vishwamitra had no control. Vishnu had to come and control the Trishanku Sarga planet. Similarly, somebody may not have control, but Vena's court had Brahmanas who were very powerful Brahmanas. They could enthrone and dethrone him. They had the power. Simply by one dissatisfied hunkar, they said, and Vena was finished. On the spot he died. They didn't have to bring any sword or gun to finish him. Simply by one dissatisfied hunkar, they finished him. So, therefore, Vena, being a sinful wretch and irreligious person who stopped all religious activities, just like Kamsa also. Kamsa tried to stop the Brahmanas from chanting Vedic mantras. Brahmanas were all afraid in Kamsa's time. When Krishna appeared, immediately everywhere you could hear the sound of Purusha Sutta prayers, loudly recited by the Brahmanas. Sahasra Shesha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat. Everybody wondered, how is it? What about Kamsabayam? There was no more Kamsabayam when Krishna appeared. It was finished. So similarly, Prithu will appear now, after Vena, bringing all auspiciousness to the world, and he will drive out atheism and establish Krishna consciousness. And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Thank you.